So I've got a little bit of time free to quickly record the introduction to the Alliance. I have spoken a little bit on my channel and on interviews recently about the White Indigenous Rights Alliance and multiple operational strategies. And I think when I verbally try to explain it, it doesn't really do it justice. So what I'm going to do is release the presentation that I usually reserve for new recruits, as I am planning to grow the team in the very near future. So if you'll bear with me a moment, I'm going to stop my camera because having my face in the corner is quite distracting, and I will need to go to a screen share. To the screen share. So, welcome to the White Indigenous Rights Alliance. This presentation is called An Introduction to the Alliance. Today, we're going to cover what is the White Indigenous Rights Alliance, why we created it, our purpose, our goals. We'll cover each of our 4 divisions, the Our Rights Division, the Our Futures Division, the Our Habitats Division, the Our Communities Division, each of the departments within those divisions. As you can see, there's a number of them there, 12 in total. And then finally, we will cover our commercial activities and funding, so how we're going to, finance these things, our website, and what we need moving forward, which is the main reason for the release of this presentation today. So what is the White Indigenous Rights Alliance? Well, we are a social enterprise that's established around the core values of conservation, community, wellness, and unity. As a social enterprise, the proceeds generated by our commercial activities are then invested back into the white Indigenous communities we pledge to support, as they are our sole beneficiaries. Our mission statement is, together in unity, we build strong and supportive white communities. So why have we established the White Indigenous Rights Alliance? As you're probably all aware, the white Indigenous communities of Great Britain are facing complex and existential challenges. Firstly, the white Indigenous ethnic and national communities of Great Britain are denied a group identity and recognition. Although our Indigenous white people's unique national and ethnic groups can be clearly defined throughout history, as well as with modern genetic testing, the globo-Marxist white eradicationist agenda seeks to strip us of our identities and statuses as the native peoples of Great Britain. This lack of recognition and denial of the existence of the white Indigenous population means that the destructive impact of policies and legislation upon the white Indigenous communities is simply brushed aside, hidden away, and denied any consideration. At this time, nobody advocates for or represents for the interests and needs of our neglected white Indigenous communities. In fact, the only time we get recognised as our own unique national, ethnic, or religious groups is when we're being subject to discrimination and abuse. This lack of recognition, most concerningly, in effect, it strips us of what should be our legally protected characteristics underneath the Genocide Convention of 1948, where we should be recognised and protected as our own nationality, race, ethnicity, and religious groups, Church of England. Depression, loneliness, deaths of despair, and suicide are a devastating and growing tragedy within the native white communities of Great Britain. Most suicides in Britain are committed by white men. White men aged between 45 to 49 are more likely to commit suicide than any other group. Lack of support and services made available to white Indigenous communities, along with social isolation, a lack of wider community support, all contribute to the shocking disparity in preventable deaths of despair and suffering within our community. Lack of identity, community, service accessibility, purpose, and opportunity, along with wage compression, the rising cost of living, and systemic discrimination against the white Indigenous communities has pushed many into poverty and despair. Alcohol, drug abuse, addiction, and homelessness are destroying white families and the lives of members of the white Indigenous communities. Men from the white Indigenous community make up the majority of the homeless population suffering on British streets. Members of the white Indigenous communities are the least likely to receive social housing or assistance with housing or social issues than any other racial or ethnic group in Great Britain. Up to 1 million children from the white Indigenous communities have been targeted, groomed, raped, sold as sex slaves, and in some circumstances, even murdered in religiously and racially motivated attacks by organized gangs of non-white, mostly Muslim men from the immigrant hostile foreign occupation communities currently in Great Britain. These genocidal acts of war against the Indigenous white population have been systemically ignored and facilitated by our governments, past and present, as well as our local councils, social services, the Crown Prosecution Service, the NHS, and complicit constabularies. When these white child victims called for help, protection, and justice, they have instead been ignored and persecuted by the people and institutions who are supposed to protect them. Our constabulary is still permitting the industrial scale sexual abuse and torture of white children to continue, simply because the victims are white children and the perpetrators are non-white adults. They, along with other state institutions and officials, have actively perverted the course of justice to cover up these crimes against humanity. They have not been held to account because the victims belong to the white Indigenous communities. As we've seen recently with Greater Manchester Police apologising, and yet not one officer has been fired or held criminally accountable. An apology without change is just manipulation. Community isolation and lack of support for the white nuclear family are both contributing to divorce and family breakdown within the white Indigenous communities. Councils and social services are targeting vulnerable white families and profiteering off the trafficking of white babies and children through forced adoption schemes in closed family courts. White children are 74% more likely to be taken into care. They're also more likely to be abused in the care of the state. White families are 83% more likely to have their children put up for adoption by the state against the will of the parents. White children are subjected to constant anti-white psychological and emotional abuse through our Marxist-controlled media, entertainment, and education systems. They are taught they are privileged, racist, and that their existence needs to be abolished. They are told that their lives don't matter and that being proud of their white heritage is evil. This critical race theory-based racial harassment, abuse, and discrimination is creating a degrading, hostile, and intimidating atmosphere for white children. They are taught an inaccurate account of our people's history that aims to destroy any sense of pride in their heritage. Instead, these so-called educators wish to incite feelings of self-hatred, shame, and guilt in these children from an early age just for being white. Despite scoring significantly higher on average IQ tests, neglect, exclusion from opportunities, and discriminatory policies in education are causing a shocking disparity in educational attainment outcomes. White children now have the lowest GCSE passing grades. White pupils are less likely to apply to or be accepted into university. White children are graded differently to their non-white peers who are graded more leniently. Non-white pupils and students have lower pass and entry-level requirements for higher education. Initiatives to help disadvantaged white children reach their full potential are refused, as you saw with the scholarship program that an elderly white man wanted to create for disadvantaged white boys, and not a single institution would accept it. The ongoing Afrocentric Marxist ethnic cleansing of the history, heritage, and culture of the white Indigenous population continues mostly unchallenged. With the destruction of our monuments, the removal of our statues, the rewriting of our history, renaming of our buildings, streets, and institutions, the cancelling of white culture, and the appropriation of our achievements. These are just a few of the many injustices and challenges that the white Indigenous peoples of Great Britain are enduring. The plight of our people is ignored. We have no representation, no voice, no protection, and no reason to trust that anybody but our own community will advocate for and help the suffering of members of the white Indigenous communities. And that is why we've established the White Indigenous Rights Alliance, because we know that the white Indigenous peoples of Great Britain have a right to be recognised as their own unique peoples, to live fulfilled lives, to be supported in achieving their full potential, and in celebrating their history, heritage, culture, and unique white racial identities. The White Indigenous Rights Alliance has been created to facilitate our communities in accessing and demonstrating those rights. So our goals are to bring together members of the white Indigenous community and their allies to tackle some of the most damaging injustices and challenges facing our communities through our shared skills, knowledge, and power as a unified people within our alliance multiple operational strategy to be the leading policy research and advisory organization that focuses on investigating legislative and policy-based issues impacting the rights and lives of the white Indigenous communities of Great Britain, with the aim to obtain measurable influence over legislative, governing, and policy writing bodies. We're going to monitor and investigate the activities of public bodies, state institutions, civil servants, our constabulary, courts, and judiciaries where corruption, discrimination, or bias is reported. We're going to strengthen the voice of our white Indigenous communities through increased representation, civic engagement, and participation in society. We're going to obtain designated body status for police super complaints to investigate and launch complaints with the Inspectorate of the Constabulary. We're going to educate the public about the operations of government, state institutions, and the judiciary to increase public awareness where corruption and misconduct exists. We're going to support and strengthen white families to build skills and resiliency in order to improve chances of a higher quality of life for both children and adults. We're going to install dignity, pride, and a strong sense of positive racial identity in members of the white Indigenous community of all ages to effectively improve self-esteem, confidence, and psychological well-being. We're going to assist disadvantaged and marginalized white children to achieve their aspirations whilst promoting a positive alternative white youth counterculture. We're going to try and reduce the alarming increase in suicide and deaths of despair within the white Indigenous communities by ending isolation through cultural connection and community outreach. We're going to support and encourage and empower disadvantaged men and women and children from the white Indigenous communities of the United Kingdom to reach their full potential. We're going to celebrate and conserve the rich and unique history, heritage, and culture of the white Indigenous communities for future generations to enjoy. We're going to bring about stronger social cohesion within the white Indigenous communities through our network, support groups, and volunteering schemes. We're going to educate and encourage members of the white Indigenous communities to make healthy lifestyle choices and engage in self-improvement programs to further improve overall life outcomes. And we're going to facilitate the purchase, development, and management of land, community centres, and allotments for Alliance community projects. So, how we're going to go about all this is within our 4 divisions. The Our Rights division, which contains our policy research and think tank. It contains our Alliance Watch Investigations department, our Advocacy and Help Hub. Then there's the Our Futures department. This focuses primarily on children, the habitat, and families. Has our Family Focus department, the WIRA Nest project, and the WIRA Habitats department. Then there is the Our Communities division. The Our Communities division contains the WIRA membership, the Health Hub department, and Stronger Communities programs. The Our Heritage division contains the Culture Hub, the Historical Society, and the Conservation Club. So let's talk about the Our Rights division. So as I said, it has a policy research department. It has an investigatory department, which is called the Alliance Watch, and it will have the advocacy service. Our policy research and think tank is dedicated to assessing the impact and policy and legislation has on the rights and lives of Britain's white Indigenous communities. We're going to inform, influence, and improve awareness of decision makers, policymakers, and stakeholders in the public, private, voluntary, and community sectors by providing evidence-based policy development advice to ensure the interests and rights of the white Indigenous communities of Great Britain are represented and considered. The WIRA Policy Research and Think Tank Department will facilitate networks, coalitions, and partnerships that enable communication with the goal of influencing the policy and practice of private and state organisations to, again, support the rights of the white Indigenous communities of Britain. The WIRA Our Rights Impact Awareness Programmes will include speeches, opinion editorials, publications, educational conferences, media outreach, radio, news, and television appearances, if they'll let us on, because we know that our sort of organisation is likely to be cancelled by mainstream platforms, and direct radio outreach through informational commercials and public service announcements. We're going to collect this evidence and data for our research through desk research with open records, freedom of information requests, data banks, and digital libraries, open source intelligence networks, tools, alerts, bulletins, and news, qualitative and quantitative original field work with interviews, questionnaires and focus groups, casework and investigations on behalf of the communities we've pledged to support, WIRA-based community networks, within national and regional events with consultations, and obviously with a partnership work acquiring membership to national and regional policy decision-making bodies. We're going to inform and consult our members and influence key decision makers by carrying out and publishing in-depth research. We're going to produce research publications, produce policy e-newsletters, we'll produce policy briefings on specific topics. We're going to hold national and regional events where we will discuss our policy findings. We're going to represent the white Indigenous communities on various national and regional forums and networks. We're going to respond to government consultations. We'll conduct awareness campaigns. And of course, when we find that there is necessity, we will oppose legislation and policy and bills before Parliament that would violate or cause significant harm to the rights or lives of members in the white Indigenous communities through judicial reviews. We may often seek to achieve these objectives through delivery of specific projects that focus on issues to generate information and innovation that benefits the wider community. At any time, we might have a range of projects. This is our policy areas. Well, actually, this will be completed within the first year of launch. We're going to look into policies surrounding education, criminal justice, family law, healthcare, welfare, employment, along with international legislation. The Alliance Watch Department is the second department within the Our Rights Division. Increasingly, the white Indigenous communities of Great Britain are suffering great injustices through our state institutions and courts. The Alliance Watch Department has been established to monitor and investigate state institutions, courts, and judiciaries where corruption, discrimination, and bias has been reported. We will use our open source intelligence network tools and freedom of information legislation, interviews, testimonies of whistleblowers and citizens, case law alerts, along with other tools and sources to monitor and investigate suspected misconduct by public bodies, state institutions, the constabulary, judicial officials, and civil servants to achieve our goals of accountability and justice. We shall investigate complaints against the 43 police forces in England and Wales, the National Crime Agency, the British Transport Police, that feature or have a combination of features of policing in England and Wales by one or more of these police forces that appears to be significantly harming the interests of the public, contrary to Section 29A of the Police Reform Act of 2002. The Alliance Watch will publish reports and raise awareness of concerning trends in policing, criminal conduct of constables that undermine the public's trust. We're going to keep records of accusations of crimes and corruptions, listing names, dates, alleged offences, and noting of evidence. We will apply for designated body status for police super complaints with the Home Office to investigate and launch complaints with the Inspectorate of the Constabulary, and we will likely bring forward private prosecutions. The Alliance Watch will seek to ensure high ethical standards in the judiciary through monitoring activities and using the judicial ethics process to hold judges, magistrates, and barristers to account for corruption or bias. Our Alliance Watch will use open records, open source intelligence network tools, freedom of information laws, case law alerts, news, along with other tools to investigate and uncover this misconduct by government officials to achieve our conservative goals of accountability and openness in government, with litigation to hold to account politicians, judicial and public officials who engage in corrupt and criminal activities. Through the publication of our special reports, WIRA's Alliance Watch will aim to educate the public about abuses and misconduct by political and judicial officials to advocate for the need for a more ethical, law-abiding and moral civic culture. The final department within the Our Rights Division is our advocacy service, which aims to assist and support members of the community, white community, who may not feel confident in communicating with the often powerful organisations that are subjecting them to discrimination, neglect, or abusive behaviour. The WIRA Advocacy Service will offer support to those affected by anti-white discrimination, harassment, and persecution by offering information to help members of the white Indigenous communities better access and defend their rights, as well as make informed decisions when pursuing resolutions. We may assist in supporting with communication with the relevant organisations and persons. The role of the advocacy team will really depend on each individual situation. We won't be able to give them legal advice. Referrals for advocacy can come from our membership, through our community outreach, through our casework and investigations and research, or even by self-referral through our online portals. The Help Hub is really part of our advocacy service, and it's online on our website. We have signposted there a number of services and organisations that may be able to help with some of the more prevalent problems within the white Indigenous communities. People will be able to ring up or book a telephone appointment to be referred or signposted to another service. As I say, it's available on our website at www.wira.uk for those who may not wish to speak to people directly. Moving on to our second division, this is the Our Futures division, which focuses primarily on children, family, and their environment that they will have to grow and thrive in. If we pause one moment. So the first department within the Our Futures division is called the Family Focus Department. We have the WIRA Nest Department, which focuses primarily on children, and our Habitats, which is linked to both of these, but is more about conserving our natural habitats and natural heritage for future generations to enjoy, and connecting our peoples back to their indigenous homelands, the flora, the fauna, the wildlife. So Family Focus Department, as we know, raising children can be challenging, especially in an increasingly hostile world to white families. That's why the white Indigenous families need all the support they can get, not only to help them through the joys and challenges, but to keep their own relationships strong. Strong families build healthier, stronger communities. WIRA's Family Focuses Group's innovative services are going to reach out to those in need, helping strengthening families by supporting them to build skills, resilience, and by doing so, improve the life chances of adults and children. Our family focus projects will provide practical and emotional support for families who are experiencing disadvantage or cultural isolation through our WIRA family support groups, training programs, and mentorship. Our family focus service will also provide access to high quality parental courses conducted by our specially trained facilitators that will equip, encourage, and support parents through the various stages of parenthood. Through WIRA's Family Focus Department, we'll encourage parents to engage more with their children's education and development through engagement programs and the development of WIRA parental support networks. We're going to focus on generating an alternative curriculum for parents who are concerned about the damagingly anti-white and over-sexualized school curriculums. We have high quality training provided by an expert third party who will equip and enable WIRA family focus mentors to support couples and deliver a popular range of parental courses. So those are the 5 different courses that this third party offer that we can send our volunteers to be trained for. The next department within the Our Futures division is the Nest Department. In order to survive in today's world, children must have attentive parents and a strong supportive community who work hard to raise healthy, capable, well-educated, confident boys and girls. The WIRA Nest project encourages and provides support for parents from the white Indigenous communities to spend quality time with their children, teaching them to love their unique white racial and ethnic identities and to celebrate their rich heritage. The WIRA Nest project is dedicated to countering the negative anti-white propaganda used to shatter the confidence of white children that is endemic within state-approved curriculums and children's entertainment. Through our positive development cultural education programs, alternative curricula, WIRA Nest events aimed at helping children adopt the attitudes needed to proudly celebrate who they are. The WIRA Nest project will provide a much-needed positive white youth counterculture that values each individual within the context of a strong and supportive community, teaching children of all ages to be confident and proud of their unique identity, their history, their heritage, and their cultures. The WIRA Nest cultural education programs are designed to build self-esteem in white children and respect for our traditional values by accurately disseminating the history of the white Indigenous community. The WIRA Nest will help marginalized members of the white Indigenous communities advance in life, develop their skills and confidence and capabilities by providing advice, mentoring, and skills-enhancing activities for young people. Our objective is to enable and equip these young people to reach their full potential and participate fully in society. WIRA Nest activities and skills-building exercises will help children from white Indigenous communities to discover their gifts and talents, then assist them in accessing opportunities and activities that would help them hone their gifts where they may otherwise be marginalized and excluded. As we grow, we aim to offer a WIRA scholarship fund for gifted yet disadvantaged white Indigenous children as part of our WIRA Nest initiatives. So we're going to have a number of educational programs that will introduce children to white pioneers, heroes, leaders, and exceptional white role models in each subject area through innovative and enjoyable activities and learning materials. So we're going to cover things like Indigenous British history, white heroes and heroines, European history, world history, political history, which will be, suitable for different age groups as they advance. Design arts, the visual arts, performing arts, written arts. We'll also offer some links to alternative curriculum that have already been developed by other communities, such as the Christian community, who have been very concerned about the over-sexualization in schools. We will cover things like philosophy, the natural world, religious education, and we wish to produce our own WIRA children's books. A society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know they will never sit under. This Greek proverb is an ethos in which WIRA is founded upon. Our children are our future, and we believe in building a safe, sustainable, free and prosperous environment to thrive in and reach their full potential in. WIRA, our Habitats Department, is our Environmental and Wildlife Conservation Department. It focuses on the preservation of Britain's native species, conserving green spaces, tackling pollution, and opposing developments and policies that would destroy natural habitats, harm native species of wildlife, flora or fauna, or encroach on green spaces, or otherwise damage Britain's natural heritage in any manner. We're going to achieve our wildlife and environmental conservation goals by conducting environmental impact research and producing reports. We'll petition against and raise awareness of environmentally damaging developments. We will engage in environmental and wildlife education awareness campaigns, and we'll hold events and produce publications. We're going to have recycling drives, green space creation and cleanup projects. We're going to encourage the community to participate in environmentally and habitat friendly activities in their day-to-day lives. And of course, as I've said before, we're going to facilitate the purchase and development and management of land for allotments for WIRA habitats projects through our fundraising schemes and commercial activities. Moving on to the next division is the Our Communities division. This contains our membership, the Community Health Hub, and the Stronger Communities. This has changed actually somewhat as the Alliance has developed, and there are some changes and additions to how that's been organised. But for the purpose of this, we'll continue with how it is. The White Indigenous Rights Alliance is a community interest company. So as such, the community is what our business is all about. Our Communities division is all about bringing together members of the white Indigenous communities to overcome the challenges we face as a united peoples. The WIRA membership will facilitate opportunities for the community to come together to build a stronger, brighter, healthier, more prosperous and cohesive community for all. We aim to rapidly build our membership to create local, county and regional capacities to offer more of our services around the United Kingdom. Through our fundraising activities schemes, we aim to purchase and develop community centres. We also wish to offer certain benefits to be included with our membership. So being part of an effective team who share the same interests, objectives and concerns improves your psychological well-being, morale and motivation. Our internal training, mentorship and peer support infrastructures, along with the activities, including in volunteering programs in WIRA, aim to build the confidence and transferable skills of our members. Members will obviously receive monthly newsletters on topics that will interest them, with positive news of actions and projects undertaken by WIRA. Members will be part of a supportive self-improvement community, which will help them reach their full potential and live healthier, more fulfilled lives. Members will be given opportunities to suggest and direct the company's projects through consultations and surveys. Membership guarantees access to volunteer opportunities. Members will be given access to members-only events, content and members-only portals on our website, and members will receive free or discounted materials such as project packs that would otherwise require purchase, and obviously reduced entry or free entry to our events. And this all comes at a set low monthly fee of £3, which makes all the benefits of supporting the rights, lives and preservation of the history, heritage and culture of the white Indigenous people of Great Britain affordable for all. So we're going to have some policies and practices that have now been developed to ensure that we have the best membership experience and volunteer experience for those who become involved. We have a volunteer-based system which is on merit, not on donations. We want to take an interest in the ideas and interests of our members so that we can link our potential volunteers to opportunities within our organization that really suit them. So, as I've said before, isolation, depression, and hopelessness, along with unhealthy, damaging lifestyles, are all prevalent personal challenges within the white Indigenous communities of Great Britain. Economic exploitation, discrimination, marginalisation, and demonisation of the white Indigenous communities have contributed to the significant disparity in deaths of despair and suicide coming from white Indigenous communities in comparison to other ethnic groups. So, we wish to be committed to helping members of the white Indigenous communities live healthy, fulfilled, and happy lives and overcome the challenges and obstacles created by the racist, anti-white agendas and policies in all areas of life. So through the establishment of strong and supportive communities, we hope to end that isolation and curb the number of deaths of despair through cultural connection and community outreach. We aim to build our members' confidence and skills by introducing them to our positive lifestyle encouragement and self-improvement programs. The Our Communities Stronger Communities programs aims to encourage healthy minds and healthy habits through activities such as our publications on mindfulness, de-stressing skills, nutrition, sleep hygiene. We're going to encourage participation in sporting activities, exercise, and personal fitness through our publications, newsletters, and events. We're going to help members of the white Indigenous community improve their psychological well-being through positive racial identity enforcement and encouragement to discover and develop their unique talents and skills. We're going to support and signpost members of the white Indigenous communities to access services and educational opportunities to improve aspirations and life outcomes. We're going to provide opportunities for participation for members of the white Indigenous communities in social and volunteering activities who may otherwise be excluded. And we're going to use culture to combat isolation in the community with the aim of reducing the alarming number of deaths of despair and suicide within the white Indigenous communities. Finally, we have the Our Heritage division. I won't pass that a little bit quickly, but this contains our Historical Society, our Culture Hub, and our Conservation Club. So the White Indigenous Culture Hub is dedicated to reviving, celebrating, and preserving the unique cultural heritage of the white Indigenous peoples of Great Britain. Our Culture Club, through our events and publications, will educate the community on and celebrate white Indigenous cultural values and traditions. We'll hold a range of cultural events and create publications that celebrate the cultural achievements of the white Indigenous peoples across literature, science, industry, technology, innovation, engineering, the arts, and the contributions of the white Indigenous peoples of Great Britain and their cultures to the advancement of humanity. The arts are a demonstration of a people's higher culture. And what higher culture is there than white culture? WIRA's Culture Hub will focus on the creative and artistic achievements of the white Indigenous peoples and encourage members of the white Indigenous community to participate in cultural and traditional white Indigenous arts to preserve these practices for future generations to enjoy. Our focus areas in the cultural arts educations programs shall include visual arts such as painting, sculpture, photography, video, and film, performing arts such as music, singing, dance, drama, and storytelling, written arts such as literature, poetry, creative writing, and composition, design arts such as graphics, fashion, and architecture. And our main aim with the Culture Hub is to hold a white culture fair within the first 5 years of our launch. So we'll be looking to acquire talent for that. So if you are a white Indigenous person with an artistic skill that you would like to demonstrate at a festival, please do let me know, because I really do wish to hold a white culture fair for our people. The next department is the Historical Society. The history of the white Indigenous peoples of Great Britain is being rewritten, erased, and inaccurately disseminated so as to promote animosity and incite racial violence towards the white Indigenous communities of Great Britain. The WIRA Historical Society is dedicated to the accurate dissemination of the rich history of Great Britain and our Indigenous white peoples, along with celebrating and preserving the knowledge of historical achievements, challenges, and sacrifices made by the white Indigenous peoples of Great Britain. WIRA's Historical Society shall utilise our website, blog, and social media platforms to inform, educate, and celebrate historical peoples and events within the publication of on this day content, as well as publications to mark historical, religious, and cultural events of importance for the white Indigenous communities of Great Britain. The WIRA's Historical Society shall hold educational events around historical sites, whilst arranging tours of historical buildings, plus visits to museums, holding historical reenactments and historically themed membership exclusive social events. The Our Heritage Conservation Team is going to work alongside the Historical Society and Culture Hub to identify any part of the cultural heritage, cultural or historical heritage of the white Indigenous peoples that is under threat, and actively campaign for its conservation through bringing about awareness through educational campaigns and publications, responding to consultations, creating petitions, educating the public on the historical and cultural significance of the heritage that is under threat of destruction, participating in things like council spatial framework meetings, opposing the renaming of streets, buildings, the removal of monuments as an act of ethnic cleansing against the Indigenous white population. We'll collaborate with different organizations with similar objectives in historical and cultural conservation. And we will bring litigation against developers and owners who damage or destroy listed properties, cultural heritage sites, or any physical representations of the white Indigenous peoples of Great Britain's history, heritage, or culture. So that brings us to the end of our operational divisions and brings us into how we're going to go about funding all this. Well, as a community interest company, we have many avenues of funding available to us. We have our online shop. We will be collecting membership fees. As with all non-for-profit organizations, we will solicit for donations. We will hold events that will generate income. We'll be the beneficiary of private enterprise. We can apply for a number of different grants due to the extensive range of activities that we are going to be undertaking. We can get sponsorship. We can run certain programs like recycling programs of clothing or electrical goods that not only helps the environment but can generate an income for the organization. Obviously, as we grow, we'll be able to offer advertisement for other people's, maybe at a cost, or even for product placement with certain advertisers or businesses. And obviously then there is legacy funding, which with other organizations I have had has been a major source of income. So let's quickly cover grants. What kind of funding is available for community interest companies like WIRA? SIC funding is more specialized type of funding. However, there are a number of organizations who offer grants to social enterprises, charities, and community projects, as well as organizations who offer social investments. As such, the sources of funding often change from time to time. I've got a couple of examples on here. Now, a lot of these are actually investing in things like Black Lives Matter. And if you go on to Google, one of the main reasons why I have created the White Indigenous Rights Alliance, if you look up charities for white people, it will instantly bring up things about Black Lives Matter. And a lot of these places have pledged a lot of funding to those sorts of organizations. So these might not be the best ones, but they're just some examples. We're going to have a white Indigenous shop, well, we're calling it the Indigenous Marketplace, and that will be on our website at www.wira.uk. We want to encourage entrepreneurial culture within the white Indigenous community by facilitating advertisement and offering an affiliate basis to sell their products via our online shop. These products, we hope, will be ones of a cultural or historical value to the white Indigenous population, but they can just come from Indigenous entrepreneurs. Kind of ideas of products, and that's a very basic list that must have been put on there at a very early stage, but that it gives you an idea of the products that we might consider selling. I have explained before that we will engage in recycling programs. We already have partners that we can work with that. And of course, just like any charitable organization, the White Indigenous Rights Alliance will rely on fundraising and donations to sustain some of our operations. Donations will be able to take online. People will be able to donate for a number of different currencies, including cryptocurrencies. And obviously, people can set up direct debits so that a certain amount can go out on a monthly rolling basis. And we'll hold specific fundraising campaigns for targeted WIRA projects. And like events are another big thing of what we're going to be doing. All the 4 different divisions are going to be holding different kinds of events. So we'll be holding national and regional conferences. The Our Rights division are going to host educational conferences. The Our Futures division will be hosting family-focused events. The Nest will host children's educational and sporting events, as well as nature and environmental appreciation events through the Our Habitats department in the Our Futures division. The Our Communities division will have a range of social wellbeing, sporting and community building events, and the Our Heritage division will host events of a cultural and historical nature, which many of these might be open to the public. And obviously we can become a beneficiary of private enterprise. This may include using premises that belonging to third parties for White Indigenous Rights Alliance events. We may get a percentage of their profits. We may be offered discounted or pro bono services, which has always been useful in other organizations. Of course, we will have our monthly income coming from our membership, because we are going to be charging a fee of £3 a month for membership, which should cover all of our basic monthly outgoing expenses. Our main operations, as with many organizations, will be on our website. It is currently under construction at www.WIRA.uk, and will hopefully launch within the next few weeks. So where we're at now, we need you. I am growing my team. Now, many of these positions have actually been taken, but at a board of directors level, I am currently looking for a legal secretary, company secretary, and a treasurer. Preferably these roles need to be filled by people who have experience in similar roles. And then in our senior management team, there are still some positions open. Now, the management team and each one of the divisions is also going to need peoples of certain skills and talents. At this time, I'm looking for analysts, open source intelligence network tools, investigators, people who are ex-police officers, those that have worked within law, ex-solicitors or barristers. You will be most useful for the Our Rights division. People who like community and community organizing, you are required as well. People who actually enjoy the administration tasks, I'm looking for membership secretaries. If you are interested in being part of the team, please do get in touch with myself. You can get me at Paris at the Bubba Kate versus the State channels on Telegram. So there is Bubba Kate versus the State. Some of you might not be able to access that, as I have been censored. If you would like to go to Bubba Kate versus the State round 2, if you at Paris at either one of these chats, you will be able to find me. Alternatively, you can email me at info@wira.uk or send me a message on the telephone number here, 07877 330 827. Thank you very much for your time, and that is all for now. So hopefully that covered what I am doing with the White Indigenous Rights Alliance, what our projects are going to be, our operations, how we're going to go about things. And if you are interested in becoming a member of our operational teams, do get in touch at info@wira.uk. Thank you.